Oh no, not again.
He's got allergies. This could be my chance.
Time to bait the big lizard.
Because even monsters deserve a good marketing strategy.
You may be huge, but I'm the brains here.
For science.
If I can't beat him with brains or bombs, I'll make him itch.
Uh-oh. Why am I doing this? Oh, right, internet views.
Yep, that's gonna sting for a week.
Now that was personal.
Chill. Achoo! Truce?
You're all right, big guy. But next time, try antihistamines.
You ever have one of those days where the forest feels too quiet? Not peaceful quiet, suspiciously quiet. The kind where the birds chirp a little too sweetly, the breeze stops mid-whistle, and even the squirrels seem to be whispering instead of yelling at each other over acorns. That kind of quiet. The kind that makes your instincts twitch. That was my morning. I was just getting my day started. Barefoot robe on, sipping a fresh mug of pine, needle tea brewed with a hint of bear honey and sap. Candle lit, chill jazz echoing from a mossy old gramophone. Mood was calm, too calm. I was just about to sit down and enjoy the forest view when I felt it. Not heard it, felt it. It started as a low vibration, barely noticeable at first, like the earth clearing its throat. Then it deepened. The cabin creaked, the mugs rattled. And suddenly, my cup, my favorite one that says, "Squatch happens," slid right off the table and exploded on the floor. That's when I knew something terrible had just clocked in for the day shift. I stood there for a second, listening to the silence behind the shaking. Pulled the curtain aside, and there it was, a dust cloud rising behind the tree line. Birds were fleeing. Ground thudding like someone was drumming on the planet with a wrecking ball. Boom. Boom. I muttered under my breath, "You ever not him again? You ever heard of Godzilla? Of course you have, big lizard." Atomic breath. Likes cities a little too much. Well, turns out he likes forests too. Or at least, he likes to walk through them. And every time he does, he treats them like some personal obstacle course. I don't hate the guy. I mean, sure, I respect the guy. He's a legend, a literal walking thunderstorm with teeth. But he's got no manners. Zero chill. He treats trees like weeds and rivers like footbaths. Last time he came through here, he roasted my berry bushes and sat on a moose. And now he was back, marching straight toward my side of the woods. I didn't panic. Yet, I did what any forest veteran would do. I climbed my lookout pine, the one I've patched with duct tape 3 times and had lightning insurance on twice. From the top, I spotted those signature glowing dorsal plates slicing through the canopy like shark fins through a sea of green. He was huge, glowing, majestic, and absolutely stomping in the direction of my mushroom patch like he had a personal grudge against fungus. My first thought was, okay, don't panic. My second was, time to get the book. Now, when I say the book, I don't mean some ancient cryptid grimoire or ancient scroll. I'm talking about my emergency playbook, plans to take down Thinger Than Me Us Volume 1 leather, bound smells like moss and poor decisions. I flipped it open to the first chapter, The Pit Trap. Simple, effective. Completely idiotic. I spent the next several hours digging. I'm talking a hole deep enough to fit a Greyhound bus, lined with banana peels, fish guts, pine tar, and glitter. Why glitter? Because if I'm going out fabulous. On top, I built the most ridiculous fake city ever made out of cardboard and duct tape, tower cutouts, toy cars, little fake people. Even installed a light-up sign that said, Actatio smash smash. I slathered it all in sardine oil and topped it off with a weathered inflatable T-Rex I stole from a gas station in Reno 15 years ago. I stood back, admired my work, then hid in a blind with binoculars, waiting like a hunter in a glittery fever dream. My heart was pounding. The forest was still. Then the trees parted, and there he was, Godzilla, towering, glowing, radiating power like a nuclear radiator with legs. He paused, stared at the bait. I held my breath. He took a step, another, raised a foot, and then with the laziest tail swipe you've ever seen, he knocked the entire thing over. The whole setup flattened, crushed. Even the pit collapsed, and to make it worse, I was in the pit. I popped my head out like a confused groundhog covered in pine tar, sardine oil, and glitter. Looked up just in time to see Godzilla peer down at me. We locked eyes. He tilted his head like, really? I gave him a sheepish wave. He grunted. Not a friendly grunt, more of a get your life together kind of grunt, and walked away. That moment right there. That was my rock bottom, literally and spiritually. But I wasn't finished. I hobbled back to my cave, dripping in glitter and fish goo, and flipped to Chapter 2 launch-based solutions. That's where I found Plan B, the Bigfoot slingshot. I tied 2 giant pine trees together with paracord, climbing ropes, and a prayer. Built a harness out of climbing gear and trampoline springs. And my payload, a water balloon filled with expired chili sauce, raccoon burps, and swamp gas. I called it the atomic burp bomb. It smelled like death dipped in a porta potty. I strapped in, pointed myself at Godzilla's chest, whispered, time to fly, fuzzball, and released. And up I went. And up. And up. Instead of launching forward, I went skyward. I passed a bald eagle, exchanged awkward eye contact with a passenger on a commercial airline. A drone took my picture. Meanwhile, my payload missed Godzilla completely, exploded in a puff of green stick near his foot, and the big guy barely even blinked. And then gravity had some opinions. I crash-landed in a swamp so hard I flattened a lily pad the size of a kayak. I lay there, face down, questioning all of my life decisions. A bullfrog sat on my back, mocking me. Okay, I muttered, Plan C it is, tick warfare. I opened the most dangerous item in my arsenal, a sealed jar of genetically enhanced forest ticks, bred in darkness, raised in anger, engineered for maximum itch. I only ever used them in cases of extreme emergency or petty revenge. That night, under a moonless sky, I crept through the trees toward Godzilla's resting spot. He was curled up beside a mountain, snoring like 1,000 rusted engines. I coated myself in mud and desperation, packed my payload itching powder, poison ivy glitter, and the ticks. Then I began the climb. Godzilla's back was like a mountain range of glowing doom. I scaled each dorsal plate with grappling hooks, panting like a raccoon in a sauna. Halfway up, I got tangled in his neck ridge and nearly fell into his ear. But I made it, all the way to the top. Then I dumped every ounce of itchy madness into the grooves of his scaly hide. What happened next was poetry. Violent, glitter-covered poetry. He woke up with a scream that rattled the moon. He thrashed, rolled, cannonballed into a lake, scratched his back against a cliff, used a pine tree like a back scratcher, then roared into the sky like someone canceled his Netflix account. I parachuted off his spine with my Bigfoot branded glider and landed in a field of startled deer. Victory? Not yet. Next morning, as the fog rolled in, I spotted him through the trees. Godzilla, still itching, still ticked off, glowing like a disco inferno. And me. I rolled out my final weapon, a spring-loaded 12-foot boxing glove, inflated and armed with confetti cannons. I baited him into a clearing, waited for the charge. He came. Roaring like a nightmare, I hit the trigger. Boom! Right in the face. Confetti flew. Somewhere a kazoo played. For a moment, he just stood there, dazed. I gave him a slow clap. Then he growled and charged again, and just as I accepted my fate, the sky opened up. A portal tore through the clouds. Lasers, lights, dubstep, and from it descended a giant robotic pigeon, blasting music and firing lasers from its chrome beak. I ducked behind a stump and shouted, "This is not in the book," got blasted in the chest and stumbled. He looked at me. I looked at him. We both nodded. Enemies no more. For now. He picked me up, gently, with claws the size of minivans, and launched me onto the robot's head like a furry missile. I landed hard, rolled, pulled out a glitter bomb, a screwdriver, and a half-eaten granola bar, and I went to work. Godzilla tail whipped the bird into a lake. I yanked wires and slapped on duct tape like my life depended on it. And together, Lizard and Legend, we brought that chrome nightmare down in a smoking pile of sparks and shame. Afterward, we stood in silence, surrounded by the burning remains of my fake city, the destroyed boxing glove, and a few surviving glitter clouds drifting through the air. I limped over, raised my hand. He gave me the gentlest fist bump in kaiju history. I cried a little, my bones shattered. Totally worth it. As dawn broke and the mist rolled through the valley, Godzilla gave one final sneeze, vaporizing the last of my cardboard buildings. Then he turned and lumbered away into the trees, disappearing like a mountain with legs. I stood there, cracked, glittered, victorious. I turned to the trees and said to no one in particular, Bigfoot out. Because sometimes peace comes after chaos. Sometimes the enemy of your forest becomes your unexpected ally. And sometimes, just sometimes, you need a 12-foot boxing glove and a jar of mutant ticks to remind the world who's boss. And if he ever comes back,